Yo, what is going on, everyone? My name is Nick, or the Notorious Fantasy, and in today's video, we are doing Week 7 trade targets, as well as, guys, we are looking to trade away off of our teams. We are going to be discussing multiple players from multiple different positions. In this video, we never talk about quarterbacks because I feel like the quarterback value to trade for or trade away is strictly based on your league. Most people are just complacent sitting with the two quarterbacks or one quarterback they have on their team, and they're not normally guys that are being moved unless you're in like a super flex or any kind of league like that, two quarterbacks. So if you have any questions about trades that you guys are doing, make sure to ask down below in the comments. I will try to answer, and someone in the comments will always answer you and have a nice conversation with you, since everyone is so nice down below in the comments, besides the people that dislike me and say that I'm a bum or something, which is true. I agree with them. So before we get into this, we are going to, like I said, discuss our targets first, and then we are going to afterwards talk about our tradeaways. This video typically lasts like 30 plus minutes, so make sure you guys get some popcorn and buckle in here. So before we get into it, Tyler, do you have anything to say to the people?
Yeah. How's everyone doing today? I'm myself am fantastic. Every day is a gift, so I call it the present. I know I've said that before in one of these, but I don't need your judgment. Sometimes I'm going to get repetitive. Like when I say you should trade away the entire Rams backfield. Maybe you should keep Darrell Henderson. I'm sorry. Maybe I'm not sorry, though, because that backfield's a mess. Cam Akers, what a joke. I did tell you to get rid of him. Proud moment. I'm ready to kick off this video and make more mistakes, but do it with a smile. And hopefully you enjoy the video.
Exactly. Even though we haven't been making that many mistakes, our calls
No.
have been pretty accurate thus far this season. So let's get into it. So I'm going to begin first, and then Tyler's going to go. We're going to go back and forth. And first, we're going to begin here with my trade target, which is Miles Sanders, running back of the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, I know what you might be thinking, Nick. Why would I want to trade for a guy that just got hurt and is likely going to miss both Thursday night up against Dallas, and then, or not up against Dallas, up against the Eagles, and then next week up against the Dallas Cowboys? Well, why you might want to do that is because right now his value is at his lowest. People can't be playing him, at least for this week, and likely not going to be able to play him next week. The reason why I like him so much is that this Eagles offense looked like absolute shit early in the season, and they have looked slightly better. Now they look kind of like some shit with a nice tie on it, or a nice gift thing on it, where it just looks kind of better. That's kind of what they look like right now. He's still averaging, though, even with them being so bad, 16 plus PPR points per game. He's clearly the bright spot of this offense. And last week, even before he got hurt, he had 9 rushes that he took for over 100 yards, 1 reception on 2 targets for -6 receiving yards, and 12.2 PPR points. So he's clearly the number one guy in this offense by far in getting yards or doing anything, because Zach Ertz is a straight up bum. He got hurt as well. The wide receiver core is completely beat to shit. So when Miles Sanders returns in 2 weeks, maybe even returns after this week, he is going to be very good for your team. And he's a guy right now, since he's injured, and a lot of people don't really love this Eagles team, maybe a guy that you can snag up easily on the best team in the NFC East, but that doesn't really tell you much about them, because the NFC East has the worst combined record in the NFL, and a lot of teams have more wins than that whole division does have combined. So with that said, I like Miles Sanders a lot. I was kind of wrong on him going in, thinking they would bring in another running back there, and clearly they just never ended up doing that. So Miles Sanders is clearly the alpha guy there when he's healthy, and I think that he does get right in 2 weeks, and he'll be great for your lineup. So what are you thinking about Miles Sanders and trading for him, even though he's kind of hurt?
I don't mind it. Again, yeah, you mentioned it. This is his floor. You're not going to get him at any of your value. And he's fantastic. I seriously believe that when he's on the field, the team's better. The running efficiency is clearly better. The offense now runs through that man. That's kind of tough, but Wentz has been awful. They've only been effective when they're running through Miles Sanders, and he really kind of missed an opportunity to get a touchdown and really help his week this week. I mean, when you look at it, the snap share's there. Obviously, you can throw away this week. He did get hurt, but like on 9 attempts, I mean, he put up 118 yards against Baltimore. Like, that's a really, really good team to do that to. I know he had a big breakout run. You can count that into it, but that's still really, really solid work. He's got a really, really easy playoff schedule, and this is a guy who I think you could seriously capitalize off of and win some leagues from, because of how low his value is right now. Go capitalize off of it. I think I talked about trading for him in week 4 when he had that 9-point game. So yeah, go get this man. We've been harping on it. Your deadline should be coming up. This is a guy you should be looking forward to grabbing.
Yeah, for sure. And just so you know, if you have, or if you're trying to acquire Miles Sanders, please make sure you're in a spot where you're not completely losing. Like if you're like 1-4 right now, or I guess 1 5 right now. Do not go ahead and go try and trade for him because then you're just going to be completely fucked. Whereas if you're a team that's winning, that's when you really want to be looking for Miles Sanders. Unless you're like, if you're in like the middle, I think you can go ahead and get him as well. Maybe lose a week because you trade for him, but in the future, he will pay back big time. So who's your first guy to be trading for this week?
Yeah. So speaking of guys who the offense kind of runs through, Kenny Galladay, Marvin Jones has been droppable. TJ Hawkinson's been very, very hit and miss. He's kind of been touchdown dependent too. The offense kind of has shown life with Kenny Galladay on their team. Puts up a decent week this week. If you don't have him, if you're in PPR right now and you're like, I probably need a guy that's more touchdown dependent, you look at week 3 and 4 where you put up 17 and 16 and had a touchdown in both weeks, and you're like, yeah, I could definitely hang with this guy. But then week 6 comes around, and PPR wise, sure, you get your 4 points from the receptions. But if you're in standard, you're like, wow, he kind of only put up 10 points for me. I don't know if that's a wide receiver 1 quality. Go get him in standard leagues. I know that sounds tough because yes, Kenny Galladay has always just been a dominant PPR guy. Finishes the PPR wide receiver number 1 last year. Yeah, that actually happened. Finished as the 9 in standard last year. I think you can genuinely use him in standard and be plenty all right. I think this is his standard floor. PPR wise, he's still just going to be there. He put up 15 PPR wise. But yeah, no, go get this man. I genuinely believe he's going to continue to just keep trucking along, putting up mid-teens to 20s in points consistently. And you could really use him for your team. Standard wise, I think this is his floor. It's why I wanted to mention him. But PPR wise too, I think you can go get Kenny Galladay and feel pretty good about it.
Yeah, definitely. Once him and Stafford are on the field together, they just look so good. And with Marvin Jones just being so awful, I don't understand what happened because he was really good last year and he has been really good in the past. And this year he just completely sucks. So Kenny Galladay is clearly the best option on this team. The Lions sucking absolute ass so far this season is also a good way to get Kenny Galladay because a lot of people don't want guys that play for the Detroit Lions under one of the dumbest coaches in the NFL besides Adam Gase. So I think that Kenny Galladay is definitely a guy you can go ahead and find and pick up and be very good for your roster. I have him on multiple teams. I play him every single week. And despite the matchup, despite anything, he always finds his way into the end zone. It always finds his way into scoring a decent amount of points for your fantasy team. And is a very, like you said, reliable guy on a weekly basis to just throw in there. And you can expect very good games regardless of the matchup, even in the cases where you probably assume he's not going to score a touchdown. He just has a nose for that end zone. Unlike another guy that we've talked about before named Julio Jones. So do you got anything else on Kenny Galladay or can we dip off of him?
Yeah, we're good.
All right, so my guy here is not even my actual guy because I don't even love this guy that much, but it's Ezekiel Elliott, the Ewok-looking motherfucker who fumbled the ball 2 times on Monday Night Football. And I understand there is going to be people very mad at Ezekiel Elliott, right? He's fumbled 5 times this year. Before the game, he actually said, I'm not fumbling again this year, and then he proceeds to fumble twice in that game, which is probably the funniest thing ever. People may panic about him due to the fact that this offense looks like absolute shit without Dakota Prescott being their starting quarterback. There's reports out of the locker room that they absolutely hate that fat fuck Mike McCarthy, who's the head coach of their team. They hate him. They're saying that he's not coaching well. They're saying the coaching is off. They're saying all this stuff. I don't know how true it is. I'm just going to assume it's true because it's pretty funny that the Dallas Cowboys are in complete and utter mutiny right now. They are so pissed off at the coaching. It's hilarious. But he does average 20.6 PPR points, even with only a 12-point performance in this game, putting him down. He had 12 attempts for 49 rushes. He had 2 fumbles in the game, 8 receptions on 11 targets for 31 yards. So this guy is very heavily targeted on the team, and I believe that they're going to try to continue to run the ball. I understand last week they kind of strayed away from the run due to Zeke fumbling. But that's not really an issue that I feel like is a long-term issue for Ezekiel Elliott, where he's going to fumble 2 times in every single game and get benched. That, frankly, is not going to happen. They're going up against the Washington football team this week, which is kind of a scarier matchup because that front 7 is very dangerous in Washington. But I do think that Ezekiel Elliott will be able to play good. And I think that despite Andy Dalton not looking very good at all, Ezekiel Elliott is still that top 5 running back that you think of him as. Sure, he had 1 bad week, but don't go ahead and get pissed off about him. Go ahead and try to get him from the guy who lost because he only scored you 12 points last week. What are you thinking about Mr. Ezekiel Elliott?
Yeah, I think what's kind of underrated about him is 4 out of 6 weeks he's seen 7+ targets, 11 twice. I mean, that's really, really solid production from a guy you know is going to get a lot of rushing volume. He's still getting receiving work, even with Tony Pollard there. He got 11 receiving targets last week with Dalton. I mean, that's mad. Like, that's really, really solid. Even with all the issues. And yeah, I was going to argue with you and say, no, that's stupid. This guy's kind of a clown show, but it really isn't bad. Like, he's currently he's the RB and PPR is number 2. Like, geez, like he's been healthy, which is honestly the best you could say about a running back right now. I feel like every single running back in the top 10, top 15 going into the season has literally faced an injury. I think there's like 2 that haven't, and they're the number 1 and 2, Derrick Henry and Elliott. And I think Kamara, right? He hasn't died yet, but like everyone's died. Like, get you a guy that's gonna stay on the field. Like, I know it's tough, really tough for me, who sat in the back rounds of my drafts and was taking the Miles Sanders and the Joe Mixons and the Ecklers, where I'm now dying. I think Elliott's been kind of the safest one out of that top 3 of Barkley and McCaffrey and him and Kamara. I think Kamara's been really, really solid. Henry's been solid. Elliott's been solid. So get you a guy that's going to stay on the field, even if he is fumbling. This team's dumb enough to continue to give him targets and continue to give him touches. So, it's not a bad option. It's not something I'm looking to do, but if you can get him at a fairly good price, I guess I seriously just can't complain about it.
Yeah, exactly. The only worry with trading for Ezekiel Elliott might be someone basing it off of name value and not wanting to give him up. But I'm sure there is that guy who's newer in your league, or someone who's not as experienced as you, who will want to go ahead and get rid of Ezekiel Elliott if you can go ahead and make the correct move to try to get him there. So who's your next guy to be trading for this week?
Yeah, so speaking of floors, that's like 4 straight guys who are like, this is their floor. Yeah, this is kind of how we target these. When we make this, we're like, who has hit their floor and could just only go up from here? It's Deandre Hopkins. I'll be honest, he didn't really look fantastic. He had 8 targets. He only caught 2. I think there was a little bit of miscommunication there this week. I think the team really wanted to focus on getting the run game going. They did so fairly successfully, so I'm proud about that. We'll talk about that run offense a little later. But yeah, no, they didn't really need to get going pass-wise. They just didn't. They were ahead the entire game. The game felt over fairly quickly. It was just a really kind of a bad scripted game for the passing. I think we kind of were expecting, hey, start everyone in this game, kind of like the Vikings and the Falcons game. But it just wasn't like that. It was a blowout the entire time. And I don't know if I want to credit that, or maybe credit somehow he was locked down. But this is definitely the floor for him. He's seen a shit ton of snap share. He's seen over 85% in every other week outside of this week. He sat in the mid 90s every week. I mean, this guy's going to average by the end of the year, about 95% snap share, which is madness. That's what you want from a receiver, is that they don't leave the field. It's rare that's what happens, and this is what happens with an elite wide receiver like DeAndre Hopkins. He's still the number 2 in PPR. He's still the number 2 in standard. Your chances of getting him are very, very slim. But I've been saying to trade for him the entire year, and I'll just keep harping on it with this is probably going to be his worst week here.
Yeah, even if you have to pay a decently high price for DeAndre Hopkins, he's still worth that price. I mean, last week, the only reason why I don't think he did that good was because I think they were just up by so much that they just stopped giving a fuck. And then the DeAndre Hopkins just wasn't in there as much. What did you say? How much did he play? He played like 80%, 85%?
78% of the snaps, which is remarkably lower than the mid 90s he was averaging.
Yeah, because we saw him a lot of the time just hop off the field because they were just running it a decent amount with Kenyon Drake, who I'm going to be talking about later. But DeAndre Hopkins did look very good not very good in that game, I would say, but he was still being very used in that game despite his low production. When he was on the field, he was getting targeted, I should say. Maybe he wasn't on the field a lot, but in that time, he was getting targets. And I think the fact that Christian Kirk has been doing so well may honestly be a bit of a fluke, in my opinion. I think DeAndre Hopkins is going to continue to get fed in this offense. And in games where they're not up by 7 million points, i.e. next week when they play up against the Seattle Seahawks, we're going to see a whole lot more of DeAndre Hopkins drizzling some points on your opponent. So go ahead and try to snag DeAndre Hopkins right now at probably his lowest price, which is still a very big price to pay for a wide receiver, but it's worth it because DeAndre Hopkins is just that good and probably, in my opinion, will finish as the wide receiver 1 on the year. Who's ahead of him right now? Maybe DK Metcalf. If any of those guys just slightly cool down, DeAndre Hopkins should easily be able to pass him. So do you got anything else on D-Hop, or can I move on here?
No, but he's a beauty. That's what I have on him. Next.
All right, next question. My guy is Tyler Lockett, wide receiver of the Seattle Seahawks. Now, at the beginning of the season, Tyler Lockett was giving your opponent the good old 1-2 Mayweather, the good old double pump from the back, hit it from the back, back, back. And then recently, he has been hitting you from the back because he has been playing absolutely terrible. He has been getting less targets, averaging 8+ week 1 through 3. The most he had was 13. In the last 2 weeks, he's had only 4 and 5 targets. And Seattle is passing the ball just as much as they were at the beginning of the year, but it was going a little bit more to DK Metcalf, and Russell Wilson has been spreading it a bit more around. Now, people are probably pissed off at Tyler Lockett because of how hot that he started and how much he has cooled down as of recently, and I'm not all that worried about it. He's on one of the best offenses in the NFL, one of the best teams in the NFL, and a team with a defense that isn't all that great, so they are still going to have to continue to pass the ball in these games. Example, next week when they play the Arizona Cardinals, I think that's going to be a decently high-scoring matchup. We just talked about it with D-Hop, where I think Tyler Lockett is going to get a lot more usage than the last 2 weeks. So I think he's going to continue to be the guy that he has always been, and he's never going to screw you over. So even if you're paying a decent price for him now, that isn't ultra amazing, even though I think you can get him for probably a better price now than you could have 2 weeks ago. He's still going to be that guy for your team that scores 10 plus points on a weekly basis. His floor is like 10 points and his ceiling is legitimately 30 plus points on a weekly basis because of how much Russell Wilson has been throwing the ball and how good he has looked. Tyler Lockett this year had a game where I believe he scored 3 touchdowns in one game earlier in the season, and he has looked very good even despite the low amount of targets. So I expect the target total to go up, which would make Tyler Lockett obviously score more fantasy points. This one is kind of an easy one to find, but I'm not too sure a lot of people are completely still bought in on Tyler Lockett with how good DK Metcalf has been. So what do you think about this whole Seattle situation?
Yeah, Russ loves both these options and he utilizes them well, and they have a fairly decent schedule coming up. So yeah, no, it felt like a no-brainer. It was a very, very smart pick for you. Yeah, like you said, he's been really, really solid. He's just kind of seeing a light decline, and I think this is a great chance for you to go get him. So go do so. Listen to Nick. Nick's a smart boy. He's a very, very smart cookie over there.
Wicked smart, as they would say in Boston. So who's your next guy here?
Yeah, so my next guy is Kareem Hunt. Honestly, I could say that you could just go get any of Cleveland backfield. They're all fantastic options. I think I picked Kareem Hunt specifically because of a kind of down week this week. Yeah, but no, both of them are highly effective. Both of them are going to see volume, and both of them kind of have a fairly easy schedule coming up. Playoff schedule wise, they face the Giants and the Jets, both in MetLife, so they don't have to leave the stadium. Great. I don't know. It just feels easy. Like this is just one I keep going back to the well. It's like Hopkins. Keep going back to the well. Go get these guys. The playoff schedule is really, really nice. You're gonna win leagues because of these men. I wouldn't be surprised if we look at the numbers and we're like, who was the most rostered on championship teams? Kareem Hunt, probably, because of weeks you're drafting him. You probably drafted him round 6. You're coasting with him, and he's got a fantastic playoff schedule. I think if you can go get him, I would do so. I think if there's anyone in your league that's saying some goofy shit like, oh, he's only good when Nick Chubb's there, so I'm getting rid of him. Like, what? Like, someone's actually probably thinking that. Like, one person on this planet, you find that one person, you go rob them in a trade. I have no problem going and getting both these guys, even paying up for value, because you look at the schedule. It's very nice. And, yeah, you may see Tennessee and Baltimore before those two, but look at what Miles Sanders did against Baltimore. And Tennessee, clearly you can kind of get to. I know
David Johnson did all right against them last week, so.
Yeah, and they haven't faced really good running backs anyways, so it's not even like they faced a Cleveland-style two-headed monster yet. And then more to that, look at what Baker did. Baker's terrible when he's forced to throw. Stefanski's hopefully isn't that stupid to just let that happen again, because even if your team is down in the game script, for Cleveland to win, they're going to have to still run the ball. It's just what it is. You trust Baker to throw, you're going to lose games until this team drafts a competent quarterback. Those two running backs are what leads this offense to success, and any smart coach will realize that.
Yeah, Kareem Hunt has been very good. I mean, last week he did have one down week, but besides that, he's going to be very, very good and a very safe option as well for your team due to his amount of workload both on the ground as well as catching the ball. And I think, like you said, Nick Chubb, he should be back within the next couple of weeks. I'm not sure the exact timetable of his return because they say 5 to 6 weeks, and then they normally come back in like 8 weeks, or sometimes they come back in like 3 weeks. So there's really no clear way to gauge when a guy's coming out unless they're only going to miss like 2 or 3 games. So with that said, I think Nick Chubb will be back soon. I think he's also a guy, like you said, that you can go out and get for an even cheaper price now because he's missed a couple of games and hasn't came back yet. And many people might have assumed he'd already be back. And Kareem Hunt has been very, very good aside from one down game. And he has been very good with or without Nick Chubb. Even when Nick Chubb is eating a defense alive later in the game, Kareem Hunt just comes up there. We saw it week 2 up against the Bengals where they're up by a million points and Kareem Hunt just scores a touchdown or just gets the ball a million times later in the game. So both of those guys on the Browns have been very, very good this season when healthy. And I think that Kareem's going to continue to do that. So the final guy to trade for, and then we're going to get into the trade-aways, is Mike Likia-Magasicki, tight end of the Miami Dolphins. Now, he looked like absolute shit last week. Tyler called for everyone to start him, and then he punched Tyler right in the fucking face. Dallas Goedert style. If you guys have seen that video of Dallas Goedert getting knocked out in the bar, it's one of the greatest videos ever. He gets hit straight in the chin. And it was kind of a very fucked up hit because he got hit from the back, just like you did if you started Mike Gesicki last week. So he played terrible, right? But now there's a quarterback change in Miami, leading Tua to come into the game. Now, what does this mean for Mike Gesicki? I have no idea. This could either mean an increase in targets or a complete and utter decimation of his targets. But right now, people may be very concerned and confused about Mike Gesicki. So right now is the best time to get him. He has had 2 really good games this season. The rest of his games have been all right. And obviously last week when Miami trounced the Jets, he didn't even do anything in probably the easiest matchup. Week 2 up against the Buffalo Bills, he had 11 targets, 8 receptions, 130 yards, 1 touchdown, and 27 PPR points. Week 5 in the absolute destruction of the San Francisco 49ers, 6 targets, 5 receptions, 91 yards, 14.1 PPR points. So he has been that guy this season, and he's also been a guy that screwed you over this season. So the way I read into this situation is you trade for him if you need a backup tight end, a guy that does have a whole lot of upside if we find out that Tua loves to throw the ball to the tight end. I have no idea how that's going to go on because there's obviously the kind of thought that rookie quarterbacks, younger guys, look to target the tight end in the NFL. Now, if you look into that, that's complete and utter fake news, as they would say. And it's not true at all, even though you would think maybe it is because that's just the perception you've been fed to you the last couple of years. So I think Mike Gesicki will be fine. I think that Tua will be smart to use the big guy on the team in the red zone to throw the ball to. You're going to have to get used to the fact that Tua rolls out to the left, not the right, like every single quarterback in the NFL. So it will be a little bit confusing to watch. But with that said, don't get tricked into kind of not trying to take that shot on Mike Gesicki because his value right now is at an all-time low. You can just snag him for some piece on your bench and just hope that he ends up panning out. And if he doesn't, you didn't pay all that much for him. But if he does, he could pay up big dividends, especially if this Miami Dolphins team continues to look how they have looked the past couple of weeks. So how do you feel now with the change of our Miami Dolphins? We're both Dolphins fans, changing to Tua and how that will affect Mike Gesicki.
Yeah, big truth. Nick was very, very confused when he was watching the highlight tape, the 2-minute highlight tape. I think.
I watched the game, real life. Okay, I actually watched it.
Well, yeah, no, I'm aware, but we all watched the highlight tape again, right? I mean, come on, like that was my material that night, if you know what I mean. Yeah, no, Nick was very confused when he saw him roll left. I think that's just what you got to take on the chin. It's just what life is. He's just gonna roll left. Hey,
he's lefty.
Goes right, we go left. We go to the Super Bowl. We win it. Tua, 6 Super Bowls, 6 years. Already beaten Brady, greatest of all time. Michael Jordan, who's that?
Exactly.
Yeah, no, Mike Gesicki's really good. This was a weird week. I think my perspective with this and the Cardinal game, where I'm like, play everyone. Maybe I should have taken into account that both these teams, Dallas and the Jets, would just get absolutely trampled early, and the games would be over by like the first quarter. Because that's how I felt in this game. I felt after the first touchdown in this game, it was over.
It was over, yeah, it was.
The only way the Jets were going to win is if they didn't score, if they just held the Dolphins to 0 points and they ended up in a tie at the end. I mean, that was the only way I felt this team was actually going to hold on to something. Yeah, I should have actually taken into account that the game would be over that quickly and it would just be a running game. So my apologies. Did I expect Durham Smythe and gosh, Sheehan to both get touchdowns, two
Adam
backup
Shaheen.
tight ends. Like, what? Like, yeah, my apologies. Those are both Gesicki touchdowns. If he catches the backup tight ends touchdowns this week, you're like, wow, Tyler, you're an absolute genius. And I would thank you for that. So unfortunately, I'm a little off. I'm not really crying all that much, but I do apologize to the fans. His 0.0 week, whatever. Take it on the chin, move on. You got a bye week this week. Him and Tua are going to have a great connection. I'm loving it. I'm loving it.
McDonald's style. I agree. I think Gesicki is going to be very good in the future. I think that this Dolphins offense is going to look very, very good with Tua under center, as long as the guy doesn't die. Knock on wood. Let's hope that does not happen. My only worry about Gesicki would be just Tua not looking at him at all, just throwing it to everyone else. That's really the only worry. And I don't think that that's even possible when you have such a freak athlete like Mike Gesicki on the field. So now we're going to move to the trade away section of the video. This part is not going to be as long as the trade for part. I would assume normally the trade away is a little bit faster. If you guys have enjoyed thus far, make sure you guys hit that subscribe button down below. If you guys want my rankings, check out patreon.com/notoriousfantasy. It's all on there later in the week, around Thursday, and I update as the week goes on. There's normally multiple updates to the rankings so that you guys get the best idea of what to do on Sunday as well as on Thursday. We'll also be live on Thursday. At least I'll be live. I'm not sure if Tyler's going to be joining me, but he always joins me on Sunday. So with that said, let's get into the tradeaways. My number one guy is a guy that I don't even feel ultra confident trading away, but it just feels like the right move to make right now, and that's trading away Kenyon Drake, running back of the Arizona Cardinals. Now, a couple of weeks ago, I think I was on the buy train of Kenyon Drake because I thought things were going to get better, and they did. He had two very easy matchups in a row here, and he's been playing quite well through those two games. Last week up against the Dallas Cowboys, we saw him score a 69-yard touchdown. Very nice for Kenyon Drake. 20 rushes, 164 rushing yards up against the Dallas Cowboys for 2 touchdowns, 2 targets that didn't amount to anything, and 28.4 PPR points. With that said, Kenyon Drake did look very good in this game, but that's against one of the worst rush defenses in the NFL in the Dallas Cowboys. I just don't expect Kenyon Drake to keep it up, but we saw last year he sucked absolute cock in Miami. Didn't do anything for the beginning of the season, and he kicked it on later in the season. So maybe Kenyon Drake is one of those guys who kicks it on once it's the end of October, once it's looking like it's spooky season, once Halloween comes around, then Kenyon Drake starts balling out. That's entirely possible. So I'm not 100% bought in on selling him because I love the guy so much, but I think your best option right now is to just go ahead and trade him away before things turn sour in Arizona and they start throwing the ball a million times a game again. So what do you think about Kenyon Drake here?
Yeah, spooky season. Your girl's taking you out to pumpkin patches and then making you hunt apples or some shit. Whatever. Number
Hunt
one,
him with a
before I
bow.
get into Kenyon Drake, why are people going apple picking for like $50 when they can just get apples at the store for really, really cheap? Find you a
Because it's
woman
fun,
who
Tyler.
understands that. Okay, that's ridiculous. No, it's not fun. You're picking apples from a damn tree. How about you just do that illegally, like the rest of us? Like,
Wow.
unbelievable. Anyways, I steal apples from my local convenience store. I'm just kidding. Kenyon Drake is a how the hell did I get there? Kenyon Drake
How do you like them apples?
is a bitch. Yeah, how do you like them apples with him putting up that many points? Yeah, I'm right for once. Great. Kenyon Drake had a good week. I'm gonna jump off a cliff because I actually still own this man, and this is my last chance to like jump him off the cliff instead of myself. So yeah, no, I will be trying to trade him. I will be getting nothing for him, and I will be crying about it. It's a very, very tough life being a Kenyon Drake owner, but this week was a reward for the hell I've been going through. Maybe this is what they needed to do to get him back on track, but he's still
Yeah.
a bitch, and I hate him.
No, I still like him. I'm just worried about the fact that what happens if he decreases and then his value turns to nothing again. That could entirely be it. So I'd rather just sell high now. And I think he could definitely continue to have this value. But if I had him, I don't think, or if I was I don't think I would trade for him personally. But I would definitely either hold him or try to trade him away. So who's your first trade away guy?
Yeah. So this is honestly just like for fun. Like you and me just get to hammer this guy. AJ Green. Oh, well, actually, no. Let me not say his name. Pretend you didn't just hear what I said like 5 seconds ago. Okay, this guy's currently the wide receiver 80 in standard. You excited? 248 overall. Oh yeah. Get excited. His name's AJ Green. What? You just heard me say it earlier. You knew who it was? I don't want to hear that out of you. Buddy's been terrible. Like Buddy's like purposely avoided like receptions like all year. Goose egg last week, the week before that, 1.3. Yeah, if you were excited about that, and get more excited about the fact that against Cleveland, a banged up defense put up 5.9. Okay, great. Take a 17.6 this week. Whatever. I'm not going to fault you if you want to say that you were right and you're a genius because you started AJ Green this week. Congratulations. Continue to play him. I dare you. I dare you. Trade away this man if you have him. If you have him, you weren't listening to the channel for like the past 7 weeks and you're new here. If you're new here, hit the subscribe button. Yeah, I just did that. I just worked that into the video. But yes, go get rid of AJ Green. If you actually have him in a league, I'm so sorry. But it's also your fault and your fault only. Go get rid of this man while you still have a chance.
I agree. Starting AJ Green is like when you're talking to a girl and she's like, I want to do anal, right? And you're like, damn, that sounds amazing. And then she shows up with a strap on and fucks you in the ass. That's what AJ Green does to you every week. So hopefully you enjoyed that analogy there. That's exactly all I have to say about AJ Green. He's not very good.
Colorful.
Very colorful. It's a very good analogy though, because it's true. It really is true because AJ Green seems like this nice, fun thing you can do, right? Anal.
Lord.
And then in reality, you're the one getting anal if you play AJ Green because he's been so bad. Joe Burrow doesn't even look for him on the field. He'd rather throw it to Titty Boy T. Higgins or Tyler Boyd. So just go ahead. And if you can trade AJ Green for anything, I'd legitimately, if your friend will offer you a quarter for AJ Green, I'd pretty much rather have a quarter and just pick someone up. So with that said, my next trade away guy is going to be Brandon Cooks. Get it? He's cooking it up in the kitchen. He's been cooking. Tyler even got a little bit mad about it and wrote something else in there, but that's okay. Brandon Cooks is a great wide receiver and has been very good the last 2 weeks, but man, the bubble is going to get burst when he just plays like shit inevitably again or just gets another concussion. I hope he doesn't do that, knock on wood, because the guy might die if he gets another concussion. I'm being completely serious. Brandon Cooks, though, has been very good. Week 5 up against the Jaguars, 8 receptions, 12 targets, 161 yards, and 1 total tutty for 30.1 PPR points. Week 6 up against the Tennessee Titans, 9 receptions on 9 targets, 68 yards, 1 off of being very nice, 1 touchdown, and 21.8 PPR points. I just don't expect this to continue to go on. Now, if the Houston Texans, without Bill O'Brien, that butt chin fuck, getting fired, maybe Brandon Cooks has been unleashed and the Kraken has flown out and he's amazing, right? But I just don't see him continuing this production of being one of the top wide receivers on a weekly basis. Would I suggest you start him this week? Yes. Would I be surprised if it completely blows up right in your face, fucking Nagasaki style? No, I would not. So go ahead and trade Brandon Cooks right off your team right now before it is too late. I believed heavily in Brandon Cooks, and then he completely ripped my heart out. So I'm going to go ahead and be off of him again. I think Will Fuller has turned completely off of what he has been in the past. Will Fuller used to be that kind of guy that you play 1 week, he plays amazing. The next week, he's completely screwing you over. And then he plays bad 2 weeks in a row. And then he plays amazing again. And he's just really confusing. But this year, he's been very safe on a weekly basis, maybe because Deandre Hopkins is gone. And I just don't feel like this Brandon Cooks scenario is going to work out anymore. So how do you feel about one of your boys, Brandon Cooks, a guy you love so dearly?
I love him, and I hate you for doing this to me, but you're relatively on point. So it's like, what can I say? It's tough. It's a tough life. Will I be selling him? No, because I'm stubborn. I will be holding on to this man. I feel like you just picked 2 options of guys that I have on my team just to fuck with me. I don't need that. That was mean of you.
Listen, Bean, I picked him up in a bunch of leagues, and I'm happily to sell him.
Yeah, no, Buddy's a beauty, but I don't know if I want to sell him because I do believe there's something here. Something in my loins. I'm just feeling it. You got the tingle in your nuts. You feel that Brandon Cook's going to consistently be good. I think
Make sure you go to a doctor if you have a tingle in your nuts, just so you know, because Lance
fair.
Armstrong will tell you that.
Amen. I think, Jesus Christ, that's a terrible joke. Oh my God. All right, fine. Yeah, no, I think Bill O'Brien's the core issue of this team. My Lord, that joke threw me off. Yeah, don't trade him. That's my opinion. No, you probably should, but I'm not going to. So if you don't trade him, please comment down below. I will heart it, and maybe I'll add you to a group chat of people too stubborn to trade away Brandon Cooks. And we'll be a support group for each other. So, yeah.
Very nice. All right. So who's your next trade away guys? Because it's not just one guy, it's guys.
Yeah. So I'm trying to keep some trends going in these videos. I kind of want you guys to expect expect what is expected. I don't know words.
Expect
So
what is
last week
expected.
I was harping on the Rams backfield. This week I'll harp on the Redskins backfield. Washington football team backfield. That's a whoopsies. Um, yeah, until they get a legitimate name for their franchise, I don't want to trust any of these running backs. Uh, it's just a thing. I think JD McKissick has been like oddly decent, and it's been pissing you off if you have Antonio Gibson. But he put up 10 points last week and 14 this week. He's seeing a shit ton of receiving work, and you're kicking yourself. If you own Antonio Gibson, you're like, why is this guy not just getting the bulk of the work? It's just what it is. Like, and
It is
Antonio
what it
Gibson's
is.
good, but it doesn't matter because JD McKissick's just going to get volume. They're probably the number one, number two, and three receiving options in this offense, which is good. 3 straight weeks of 5 targets for Antonio Gibson's not bad. But he's just not doing it on the ground. Like neither of
Yeah.
these guys are doing it on the ground, and a lot is to do with faulting the actual team, which is really not good. Um, so the entire backfield, I would say, you don't want any part of. I don't think most people do, but a lot of people are believing in Antonio Gibson, and I think you just have to get rid of him because this is kind of a clown show, and you really are getting beat by J.D. McKissick, which is really tough if you're an Antonio Gibson shareholder. So bounce him. I think just bounce and find someone else that believes in him because I really don't.
Yeah, I mean, Riverboat Ron just is not using him correctly. He's not making him Christian McCaffrey. He's not doing what you think he would do. He was actually Antonio Gibson. I feel like was just better with Dwayne Haskins. Even if Kyle Allen is technically better than Dwayne Haskins for points per game basis, he was just much better with Dwayne Haskins starting. I have no idea what they're doing with Dwayne Haskins in Washington. Zero clue. I think they're going to trade him, but why has he not been moved yet? Why is he still sitting on the bench? Why not just play him and get more tape so you can trade him for a better pick than what you're going to trade him for now? I have no idea. The Washington football team is probably going to end up winning the NFC East because of how shit the Dallas Cowboys are and the rest of that division. So how do I feel about that? I completely agree with Tyler. I don't want anything to do with this backfield. It's the same thing with Baltimore. It's the same thing with Detroit, even though in Detroit, DeAndre Swift has looked very good the last couple of weeks. I just feel like Matt Patricia's going to take that pencil up his ear and shove it right up your ass when you go ahead and try to actually start DeAndre Swift, because then it'll be a heavy dose of Adrian Peterson. So that's how I feel about that. And my final trade away guy is going to be Chris Godwin, wide receiver of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I must have been wrong on this guy because this year he has completely sucked some fat hog. He has been sucking some 9-inch Nick Foles style. I don't understand what has happened with Chris Godwin. The Tampa Bay offense has turned from one of the most pass-heavy offenses in the NFL to running with Ronald Jones 7 million times, which feels good for the people who have Ronald Jones. Feels very bad for anyone who has Mike Evans or Chris Godwin. Chris Godwin just has not been performing at all. And I wouldn't mind keeping him if I'm being honest with you, but there's probably some people out there that are going to want a guy with the name value of Chris Godwin, the guy who was one of the best receivers in fantasy football last year, despite missing multiple games at the end of the year due to injury. Chris Godwin and Tom Brady just clearly don't have some elite connection. Would I be surprised if 3 weeks from now Chris Godwin is a top 10 wide receiver? No, I would not. But right now, based on how he's been playing and based upon his name value from last season, I think you can go ahead and move on and get someone good for him. So how do you feel about Chris Godwin in Tampa Bay? Even when they blow out the Green Bay Packers, he still doesn't do anything.
Yeah, I'm gonna sneeze here. No, I'm not. No, I'm
Bless
not. I'm
you.
too good. I'm too good. I'm already stopping myself. Um, yeah, this man can't stay healthy. When he comes back, he gets right back on the IR. It's a tough situation here, and yeah, he didn't do anything against Green Bay, but it was a negative game script, so you could say that. Um, I don't know. I thought this was going to be a better connection than it was. I wasn't telling people to go trade for him because not trade for him, go pick him because I just didn't. I thought the value was a little too high. I don't have him in any leagues. I'm thankful I don't because I think he's like the wide receiver, like 75 or some shit like
It's
that.
like 41 or something. It's not good.
No, it's got to be worse than that. It's 6 games. He only played 3, and it's a tough situation. I don't
Oh,
want to
you're
fall
right.
into it.
Wide receiver 74. He's
Oh
13 points,
shit.
17-9.
Dude, I'm too good. I'm out here just like guessing shit. Yeah, no, he's been up and down. I think he's played like what 3 of 6 games. Like it's just been
Yeah.
rough, and you don't want anything to do with him. I'm gonna be honest. I think you sell him. If you're selling him, you're doing it way too low. I think if he does come back, he's gonna be higher value than what you sell him for, even if he comes back
Maybe.
and he's like mediocre. I just
He
don't
is
think he has
mediocre right
value.
now. He got 9 points last week.
I know. I just don't think he has value like right now, like at all. I think this is one guy you
Maybe.
just hold and you just kick yourself because you have to hold him.
I don't know. I've been starting him like when he plays, and he's been all right. I think the reason why I say to trade him is because I think his name value is still very high. His quarterback is the GOAT until Tua plays for 6 seasons, of course. So I think Chris Godwin is just, I don't know. I think you could keep him, but if anyone's willing to take him for a solid price, I don't think he's going to be the same guy he was last year based on what I've seen thus far this year. We're already halfway through the regular season of fantasy football. Most playoffs start either week 13 or not week 13, I say week 14 or 15. So we're already at week 7. That's halfway through the season if you're in a 14 Jesus, I don't know how to talk. Fucking week 14 playoff league. So
Yeah,
I would
yeah,
just go ahead and probably try to trade him. But if you don't, again, if you, a lot of these guys, if I say to trade him, I say to sell high on fucking Kenyon Drake. If you're not getting anyone good, you're getting some bullshit trade, don't trade him away. Same thing goes with Chris Godwin. If someone's sending you, hey, I'll give you Corey Davis for Chris Godwin, you should tell them to go fuck themselves. So understand that it's based off of a situation, not based off on you have to strictly sell this guy. Same thing goes with the trade for. You're not trying to overpay for these guys. So, Tyler, who's your final guy to trade for? Since you always got to drop some dynasty bombs on us here in these videos.
yeah. So yeah, again, we're staying with the trends. We got our backfield out of the way, and yeah, normally I'll like to mix it up and I'll throw one of the back, like either the backfield or the dynasty option in the trade for us. But no, this week they're both trade away. Um, I'm actually gonna slightly change my answer, and I'm not changing my answer. I'm keeping that option, but I'm just gonna go ahead and say the Broncos guys. I'm talking KJ Hamler and Jerry Jeudy. That's tough. I think Jerry Jeudy
Pain.
still has dynasty wise a lot of value. This is why I'm saying it. If you're a team that's ready to win now, trade away Jerry Jeudy and go get a piece that's actually valuable for you. If you're not in that situation, I don't know if I want to hold him either. I don't know. He's been kind of iffy. He hasn't done what all these other rookies have done. CeeDee Lamb, Claypool, Laviska Shenault, T. Higgins, where it's like you're actually contemplating starting these people. I mean, yeah, the snap share's kind of been there, but it's been very up and down. He's been 75, 56, 72, 67, 72. It's like they're up, down, up, down, up, down. And it's like, I don't need that Matt Ryan style of play there. The targets have been, again, up and down. I don't know if really he really has this connection with Drew Lock right now, like the tight ends kind of do, and some other options do. I don't really know how attractive I've been to Drew Lock and how well he's done. And yeah, this is kind of a rough week, but it's just not a guy that you really want for this year. I don't think at all. So dynasty wise, I'm trading Jerry Jeudy and then KJ Hamler. I think a lot of people were high on him, and I was kind of lost as to why. I thought he was very undersized. I didn't really think his speed was enough to make up for it. And if you look at it, he really hasn't done anything. He had a 92% snap share in week 3 against Tampa, and there wasn't anything even close to that. He's missed 2 straight games. No, not 2 straight. He had the bye, and then he missed this week. He'll probably miss next week. He didn't even play week 1. I mean, what are you expecting out of this guy? I think you drafted him probably round 2, maybe round 3 in your rookie drafts. If you can sweetener use him, just throw him in a sweetener deal for a dynasty trade and maybe go get a piece we've talked about earlier. I'd do it. Both those guys from Denver, not interested in anymore. Ship them out, move on.
I'm sorry, I had my mic muted. I completely agree. I don't know. The Denver offense just looks so confusing as of right now. I thought they were going to be a team much better than they are right now with the Cortland Sutton injury and everything. It's very confusing. I think that Jerry Jeudy, especially in a dynasty league, is a guy that a lot of people are still going to be looking for to acquire and will pay a heavy price for due to his young age. KJ Hamler is never a guy that I was even really bought into. I'm not saying he's a shit player or something, but I just don't think he's really that kind of a player that is going to be someone that's worthy of starting in a fantasy football lineup anywhere near now. Sure, maybe 5 fucking years from now, the guy's good on some other team, but on Denver, I just don't really see him being all that good. So I completely agree with you on both of those takes. So do you have anything else to add here before we skedaddle out of here?
No, I'm good.
All right. So I hope you guys did end up enjoying this video. Hope you guys had a great time. Make sure you guys check out Tyler on Twitter at Tyler Moss NFL, the sporter.site as well. Link down below in the description. If you have nothing to add, right? You said nothing.
No, but yeah, please follow my Twitter. I do answer questions there. My Twitter's kind of a madhouse. So if you really want to like get a good laugh, or maybe just get really confused as to what the hell I'm talking about, or why I'm talking about hockey occasionally, or sometimes I'll just talk about other random things, like why pie is better than cake. It just is. It just is. Don't ask questions. Pie is better than cake. Don't challenge me. That's all I have.
All right, so thank you guys all for watching. I hope that you guys did have a great time watching this video. I know we had a great time recording it. This one is probably like 40 minutes long, I would say. We've been going for a decent amount of time. We had a great time. I hope that you did as well. Let me know down below in the comments, actually, if you guys like the long version of this video, or if you guys would prefer the shorter version where I cut it into like 4 different pieces that I've done before. I personally just prefer to post one long one. I think it's more, I don't know. I just feel like watching 10-minute pieces of it isn't as enjoyable to me. But with that said, maybe you guys feel like that. So let me know down below in the comments. Check out the Patreon. Have a great rest of your guys' day. Follow me on Twitter as well, at NotoriousFNTSY. And El Prez, if you're watching this shit, you better hire me. I love you. Have a great rest of your guys' day. And I'll see you motherfuckers tomorrow with some more videos. And I'll see you on live stream with or without Tyler. Maybe he'll be there. Maybe he won't. Have a great rest of your guys' day. Good boy. Oh, I almost just left the meeting. I got to end the recording.